just have your back. Don't look back. Give all the dollars, you know, a fake heart attack. 'Cause you were made for this. You can feel it inside your bones. You were made for this, and it's time you let the world know who you are, what you know. It's happening right now, so
Good morning, everyone. I'm another Jimmy from Korea. It's my honor to be here. Actually, it's my first time here in Indonesia, Jakarta, and I feel great. It's good to see this, active movement in Southeast Asia. I'm a venture capitalist. During the past 10 years, I think I reviewed tens of thousands of startups, and I tried to track why some of them succeeded and why some of them failed. Of course, I don't know the exact answer, and luck is a huge part of startup success. I know that. But I just wanted to share some controversial issues to you. It might be different what you read at blog posts and what people usually say. Here comes my messages, 5 messages to startups. So, yeah, my first tip is don't do startup. Yeah, seriously, I'm not joking. This is a startup event. I know it's very weird to say this, but doing a startup is super hard. It might be the best time. I agree that it might be the best time to do a startup, Every innovation happens when the platform changes, and now the platform is changing into mobile. The cost of doing a startup is extremely low. I know every good things, and startup is becoming a cool thing to do, but still, many of them fail. And what I see nowadays, and I think a little bit uncomfortable, is that I can see a lot of wannapreneurs rather than entrepreneurs. The reason I call them wannapreneurs is that they do a startup because they think it's a cool thing to do. They're not solving real problems. They just want to become cool. And nowadays, I get this kind of questions. What should I do to become an entrepreneur? What should I prepare? And my answer is very simple. Just don't do it. Startup, basically, as I said, is a process of solving a real problem. It's not just doing a startup. But most of the people, especially in Asia, they copy Silicon Valley startups. And they think that they're going to earn a bunch of money. Most of them fail, of course. 90-something%, I think 99% of them are going to fail, definitely. There's going to be many reasons why a startup fail, but what I think is that they fail because they lack of the belief. They don't really believe what they're doing. They read a post at TechCrunch, and they realize that it's super hot in Silicon Valley, look around, and then realize that they don't have that kind of service in their own country, so they copy it. And at the same time, there are going to be more than 10 entrepreneurs reading the same post and preparing it. And then the startup doesn't go as you expected. At first, you thought that you're going to earn money within like 1 or 2 years. You're going to earn like millions of US dollars in 1 or 2 years, but it doesn't happen like that. And then you think about it, did I really believe in this item? And then bad thing happens. Even the x-axis, that can become like 3 or 5 years. Even if you think about Facebook, Twitter, Airbnb, it took years they became massively successful. So you have to do something that you really believe in rather than doing something that you can think that you earn a lot of money. So I'm going to slightly change the message from not do a startup to only do a startup when you perceive yourself as a missionary to solve that specific problem. And if it's your personal problem, it's even better. A lot of people are saying about passion, but maybe the most important word in startup world is going to be tenacity. Tenacity, by definition, is doing something persistent. I can't memorize it, so persistent in maintaining and adhering to or seeking something valued or desired, not easily pulled apart. Not easily pulled apart. This is tenacity. And maybe this is the single most thing that you need to succeed in a startup. The second message is also quite controversial, I believe. Everybody in startup world says you have to move fast. Even the famous Facebook says that you have to move fast and break things. They have a poster, right? They have the poster that they pull up on the wall that move fast and break things. I agree when it comes to building a product, but when you're building a team, especially co-founders and the early few employees, I'm not sure if that's right. Throughout the history, there are a lot of examples that the first mover was not the last one who survived. It was not the winner. Because if you pick the right market or a product, definitely there's going to be competition. It's not about the idea. Competition will follow, and you have to win. To win, you need an A-class team. The team has to be consisted of A players. That way is, I think, the only way to win. So you might be a little bit worried about other competitors and you have to move fast, so you just build your team fast, you just hire fast. But maybe, even though it might seem a little bit slow, getting the right people, getting the A players is gonna be much faster in the long run. I'm a true believer of an A players, and I believe that startups has to be done by A players rather than B players. I'll share an interesting example. This guy is a Korean athlete. He won a gold medal at the Olympics. In Korea, different from Western countries, when you become a national athlete, you don't study. You even skip schools. You only do that. So we have a perception that usually athletes are not that smart. They cannot be innovative. They're very far from IT. And do you know what he's doing right now? Yeah, he's a founder and CEO of an IT company. They're developing telco equipments. It's not huge success like Facebook, but their revenue at least is over 10 million US dollars. So they're relatively successful. So I think this example shows a lot of things. It tells a lot about an A player. Because if you think about it, winning a gold medal at an Olympics, that means that you're number one in the world. And to achieve that, I bet that he had the tenacity, of course. There's going to be a lot of moments that he wanted to give up, but he didn't. And he applied the same habit into a different area, in a different industry, and he made it. So that's what I just wanted to say, that A players are different, and you have to build your team with A players. Yeah, if your team is like this, it's going to be wonderful, right? So especially, again, I'm saying that when you're finding a co-founder, please take your time. Nowadays, I see a lot of people, going to a meetup and say that, what do you think about this idea? And they're just going to say, oh, it's pretty cool. Why don't we do a startup? You met him there for the first time. You don't even know him. Rather than doing that, why don't you look back on your own work history, your school history, and think about the superstars, and then try to persuade that person. That's going to be the faster and better way, I believe. The third one, it's not a controversial one. It's a very simple concept that I really like. It's very simple. If you take a look at the circles here, of course you're going to say that this is so true. Why are we even talking about this? You have to find the intersection of these three circles. It's easy to say, but it's not that easy to do. And personally, I recommend you to focus more on what you're good at rather than what you're passionate about. A lot of people are saying that you have to do something you're passionate about, but if you think about it, as I'm saying this again, competition will follow. So you have to do something that you're good at rather than something that you like it. So when I have some chances to speak in front of audience, when I go to like a university students talking about career, I always say that do something that you're passionate about. But when I have a chance to go in front of entrepreneurs, I say that you have to do something that you're good at. Of course, you have to be passionate. So, but what's more important might be something that you're good at because competition will follow. So whenever you do something, think about these sort of circles and try to find an intersection of these three circles, then you'll benefit from it, I believe. The fourth one is also slightly controversial, I believe. Don't pivot. I think, pivot became a buzzword nowadays. I feel a little bit uncomfortable because a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs think that pivoting is okay. So, like some entrepreneurs were doing some social services, moved to some coupon services, moved to a commerce service, moved to, let's say, photo something applications. I don't believe that this is pivot. Even the author of Lean Startup, Eric Ries, he said that a pivot is a change in strategy without a change in vision. But I think the word is misused nowadays a lot. I'll just show an example of what I think a pivot is. This is a company that I invested. It's one of my portfolio companies named Programs. They're consisted of top talents in Korea, top engineering talents. What they're doing right now is, delivering a movie recommendation service. It's a personalized recommendation service, and they're gonna become a content gateway. So they're gonna expand into TV series, books, and everything. But originally, what they did 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, actually, they did a group buying service, like Groupon. And since they were engineers, they added a feature. They said that, we're different from Korean Groupon because we are a great engineering team. We can add some recommendation feature of that commerce site. But that commerce doesn't work that way. So they were not very good. Then they moved to Netflix-like model. So they started a movie streaming service, and they added a recommendation feature. But they realized that dealing with content holders is extremely hard for a startup. They didn't have the money. So eventually they realized that what they're really good at is engineering. And the core of their vision is personalization and recommendation, rather than doing random stuffs. Who others can do. So they just focused on the recommendation technology, personalized recommendation technology. So their first product is movie recommendation service. It's getting a huge hit in Korea, and they're going to expand in several verticals, as I said. So I think this is a very good example of pivot. The last one is not controversial. Please measure. A lot of people love Steve Jobs, of course. In IT, I think like Steve Jobs is a hero. And everybody wants to become like him, I think. And Steve Jobs made some controversial comments like, customers, users don't know what they want. So you just build it. You have to have the insight. Of course, Steve Jobs could do that, but we're not Steve Jobs. But I can see so many entrepreneurs believing that he's Steve Jobs and making decisions based on gut feelings without any ground foundations. This is the famous Peter Drucker. I like this word. If you can measure it, you can manage it. And one thing, even though Zynga is not doing very well nowadays, still it's valued $1 billion company. And what was very interesting for me, impressive for me, is that the VP of Zynga was having an interview, and they said they defined themselves as an analytics company rather than a gaming company. Usually, when you meet a gaming studio, they say that they're the most creative developers, and you have to respect the product director and stuff. But yeah, they were saying that we are an analytics company. Even in the gaming industries like this, if you come to services, commerce, of course you have to deal with data a lot. And the last part is like, a lot of people are talking about downloads, monthly active users, but those kind of measures can be vanity measures. One of the most important things is going to be retention, of course. You have to make a reason for users to come back every day. The reason the messenger services like Kakao and Line is super strong is because they have an extremely high retention. And more of that, if you look at the data, it's going to be very good to comprehensively understand the data rather than just saying that your retention rate is like 80%, your monthly active user is, let's say, 3 million. This is, I think, is a wonderful example. If you take a look at the data, yeah, a lot of people, after you visit 7 times, then you pass the threshold, and then they're gonna use it like forever. If you figured out this kind of implication, you're gonna design your app again and incentivize the users to come 7 times, right? So it's gonna be a totally different strategy. If you didn't have the data, you're gonna switch add feature, detract feature, and it's not gonna work. So I think that dealing with data, it's super important. It's just more than just reading the metrics. Again, yeah, this is my last slide. I just wanted to throw some controversial messages because, everybody is reading a lot of blogs, but in reality, what I thought is different. So again, I'll just go through it. Don't do a startup unless you really believe it. Don't hire too fast, especially for the early employees and co-founders. You have to do what you're good at rather than you're passionate about. And don't pivot. So don't pivot means that you have to pick the first item very well. Then you're not going to pivot. You're going to have the tenacity. And the last one is please measure. You're not Steve Jobs. Thank you very much.
Breathe.